Hello, and welcome to a very special edition of Up Close on METV. I'm Charles Clapsaddle, and I want to take this opportunity to thank our very special guest, Sherod Haliburton, VP, Market President for Credit Union One. And for those of you that know Sherod, you know how involved he's been with this community for many, many years. Sherod, thank you very much for joining us, sir, and for taking this opportunity to tell us not only about this wonderful merger that you've developed, but also about your background and your involvement with this community.
Well, Charles, thank you for having me. And yes, let me talk a little bit about my background. I'll get started. Early in my career, I worked in corporate America. The first 10 years, I worked for AT&T, IBM, Equifax. I like to call myself a corporate junkie. Well, my wife grew up in the Bradenton area, and her mother was getting a little older, and we made a decision that we wanted to move closer to be able to take care of her mother. And that was my introduction to Bradenton, and that was well over 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. And in Bradenton, I found myself really involved in the community, more so than I did earlier in my professional life. And I took an opportunity, a contract with the state of Florida, serving as community liaison for the Front Porch Initiative. You may recall the Front Porch Initiative. I was charged with working with a community group, bringing resources into the community and helping that group solve its problems. Charles, it changed my life. Yeah. You know, I loved the work. I loved being actively involved in solving community issues, and I never went back to corporate America. You know, I went from a corporate junkie to someone who was just committed to making a difference in the community. From there, I had the pleasure to work with Mr. Jerry West for the city of Bradenton, and they were just launching the Bradenton Central CRA. Mm-hmm. And that was a very interesting experience. Mr. West recruited me to join him at the Bradenton Central CRA. He created a position. I was the assistant director for the Central CRA. Mr. West, unbeknownst to me, announced his retirement 3 months after hiring me. And shortly thereafter, I was the executive director of the Central CRA. That was an incredible experience. The CRA allowed us to take incremental tax revenue, that is, revenue that came from the increasing value of the tax base, and allocating that revenue to invest in projects in the community. And that was my first foray into government. And it was this wonderful experience that kind of created my business model around collaboration and working with others. Right. And so we took that money that was generated through the incremental taxes, and we did very important projects. We invested in small businesses, developing small businesses, partnered with Andy Fox and the Manatee Chamber of Commerce, and we did a small business boot camp. Yeah. And that was my first foray into supporting entrepreneurs. And it was this wonderful experience. And I was connected to the Chamber, which is this wonderful organization. Exactly. And I want to give a shout out to its incredible leader, Jackie Dzelski. She is amazing. But in that capacity, we worked with the Chamber. We also were very instrumental in the relocation of the Dream Center, which was previously 13th Avenue Community Center. That was an important organization and institution in this community, providing a facility for young people to go and be developed athletically, intellectually, educationally, and socially. And for a very long time, they were in a location that was not optimum.
That's right.
So, I was intimately involved in working with county government, city government, and the Central CRA in moving that organization to its current location and to help to be a part of the funding mechanism to make that happen. And we're really proud. I drive by that facility today. I'm really proud of what we've been able to do, and to see kids out on the basketball court, that really brings a smile to my face. I'll say my time at the Central CRA allowed me to understand how government works,
Right.
how you could partner with government and other institutions and organizations to make a difference in our community.
Right.
I would like to believe that my brand is collaboration
Exactly.
and community. It is, how do we take all these assets in our community
Right.
and work together to create a better future for our residents and our children. And one of my proudest projects, one of my proudest collaborations is the founding of Career Edge.
Right.
And over time, the story kind of gets lost. We actually founded Career Edge right here in Bradenton in partnership with the Knight Foundation.
That's right.
And Meredith Hector, who's an amazing person, by the way. Well, the Knight Foundation was looking to find a partner to help generate interest and articulate a strategy to develop a workforce partnership.
Right.
And in conjunction with the National Fund for Workforce Solutions. That is a national partnership with corporate partners, government partners, and they have a business model, and they call it a dual client approach. It's providing solutions for the employee and the employer.
Right.
And at the time, we were looking at high employment around 2008. The stock market had crashed. The housing market was in a tizzy. And we came in and brought resources into this community that allowed us to skill up employees. And we brought an amazing asset into our project, and that was Maria Avey. And that was the
Wonderful
beginning.
person.
Oh, she's absolutely amazing. And that was the beginning of a long-term partnership between Maria and I.
Right.
She is probably one of the most informed individuals in the region on workforce strategies. Right. And I was so fortunate to have her work for me 3 years with Career Edge. And we took what was originally funded and operated by the Central CRA and government money. We took that government money and we turned it into an effort that brought in private money.
Yeah.
So starting with public money, we attracted all this private money. The Central CRA was an investor. The Downtown Development Authority was an investor. The City of Sarasota was an investor. Sarasota County government was an investor. From there, we were able to bring in national foundations, Microsoft, the National Fund for Workforce Solutions. And before we knew it, what was funded heavily by government was now funded by the private sector.
Right, right.
And really taking the project to the next level was bringing in, and it was early in the process, we brought in Gulf Coast Community Foundation, which turned out to be an incredible partner that really brought stability to the program. The Central CRA was the operational lead. Gulf Coast Community Foundation, led by Mark Pritchard, that program was led by Mark Pritchard, and Terry Hansen was running the Gulf Coast at the time. They were amazing. They grabbed Career Edge and they nurtured Career Edge, they funded Career Edge, and they were able to take it to that next level. So I really want to give a nod to Gulf Coast Community Foundation. Without them sharing this vision with us, jumping in and supporting the efforts of the Knight Foundation and the Bradenton Central CRA, Career Edge would have never reached those heights. And Career Edge would have never reached those heights without the leader, Maria Avey.
But I must say so too. It's your leadership and your vision that brought together these partnerships. not only with Maria and Career Edge, but all of your other partners that you've just listed, you know, the Gulf Coast Foundation. All of those are important, but they had to be kind of convinced and shown the possibilities. And that was one of your strong visions. As you said, one of your strongest points is collaboration. And I think that's really critical. And that's all due to because you saw the light that you wanted people to see.
Oh, absolutely. We are much stronger together than we ever could be apart.
Correct.
And so that has always been a clear idea for me. And I'm just thankful that the Knight Foundation trusted me, Meredith Hector trusted me to lead that effort in the initial stages. And so we gave birth to it, if you will. But I have to say, Gulf Coast Community Foundation grew that entity up. So for me, it was, you know, birthing a baby and then watching that baby go on and grow up and do some amazing things. It could never have reached the heights and impacted the number of people that it did without Gulf Coast Community Foundation coming in, providing that financial support, being that incredibly visible partner.
Very
And so,
important, yeah.
I'm proud to have worked with them. I'm proud to have been a part of that initiative. I'm proud to look back and see how many people increased their financial viability, how many people increased their skill set, and as a result of got a better job within the company that they are working.
You're very results oriented. You want the people that you're working with to have success, and that's a key element in this.
It's very important. And so as we were having success with Career Edge and the Central CRA, I joined the board of Manatee Community Federal Credit Union. In fact, interesting story, I was the very first person invited to join their board of directors that was not previously affiliated with Tropicana. Manatee Community was previously Tropicana Employees Credit Union. So the board consisted of Tropicana employees. Cindy Barco, who recently passed away, and she was amazing in her belief that I could move from the board. I was a board member for 5 years and very involved in helping to introduce what was Tropicana's credit union, transitioning them to Manatee Federal Credit Union, and introduce them to the community as a community-based institution. Cindy saw the value in taking this, at the time, young man. I didn't have the gray in my chin at that time, but taking this young man who had no prior banking experience. My background wasn't in banking.
But your background was with community.
My background was with community. I had a business background, and I had a very pronounced community and government background. She saw the value in bringing me over and teaching me the business. So after spending 5 years on the board, I was offered the opportunity to come over as executive vice president and learn the business. And it was unique. There were no promises. The offer was, you come over as executive vice president, you work with me for 1 year, and then we take you to the board, and the board decides if they're comfortable with elevating you. And it was a bit scary. I had been with the Central CRA for 7 years, and I had served on the State Redevelopment Board of Directors for 5 years. I was in this government space and had all my partnerships and, had created a reputation in that space.
Very much so.
I was being asked to move out of my comfort zone.
Into a financial background that was new to you.
It was new to me. But I have to say, Charles, I took to it like a duck to water. In 1 year, the board decided to elevate me to CEO, and we worked really hard and kind of changed the direction of that organization.
Very much so.
We became what's called a CDFI, Community Development Financial Institution. That is a federal designation that gives us access to resources from the U.S. Treasury and considerations. We used those resources, brought money into this community, and we were able to impact this community beyond
Right.
the credit union.
Right.
And so that was just this wonderful journey for me. And I spent 12 years at what ultimately became Financial Access Federal
Right,
Credit
right.
Union. We changed our name from Manatee because we expanded our service area beyond Manatee.
Correct.
And we wanted our name to reflect our vision. And our
Which is
vision,
financial access.
it's all about financial access. It's all about giving people access to the resources
Right.
so that they could have a better life. During that time, I stayed connected to Maria Avey. We had this collective vision. Employment was so important, increasing people's skill set
Right.
so they could have a better living
Right.
was so important. But we saw a piece that was missing, and that was shoring up their personal finances.
Very important. Very critical.
Very critical. Charles, we saw people get an increase and not be able to improve their quality of life because they didn't manage their personal finances.
And they didn't have the skills.
They didn't have
They
the
had the skills to do so. And you know, but financial access played a critical role in that by simply outreaching to the community, developing policies and procedures that would help individuals right where they need it.
Absolutely. Meet people where they are and take them to where they need to be.
Right.
And so we saw the credit union grow. When I joined, we were at 25 million. And at one point we grew to 50 million. We ended up shrinking down a little bit due to the economy. But we were able to impact more people's lives.
Right.
We introduced software that helped people to manage their credit scores. We introduced resources that would allow us to send our staff out into the community and engage with community partners. Again, it was about how do we collaborate? How do we make a difference? We've worked with very important organizations in this community from Goodwill to the United Way.
Right.
And that was always very, very important to us. And in doing those wonderful things, we were discovered, if you will, by an incredible organization out of Chicago, Credit Union One.
Credit Union One. And,
Yes.
and there's some important things that we want to talk about Credit Union One. But I must say, before we get to that, I must say that during your leadership with financial access, you weren't just reaching out to individuals and families. You were reaching out to entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Helping develop small business, helping develop those businesses that need financial wellness, and that was an important part of the development.
Yeah, working and growing with small businesses has always been a passion of mine. It's great to attract large businesses into our community, but I was on a different end of that spectrum. I was on the how do we seed and grow existing businesses? How do we take an ideal and sprinkle a little water on it and watch it grow into a flower? And so we have a lot of talented people in this community that
Absolutely.
needed a support system.
Yes.
You know, they needed technical assistance, and we have some great technical assistance partners. SCORE is a great resource. The Chamber of Commerce, Manatee Chamber of Commerce, is this wonderful resource that can help provide a support system to small businesses. So yes, we were involved in introducing products that filled a gap in the marketplace. And you know, our business model always was, how do we take this business owner and sometimes help them improve their personal finances, and through that improving their personal finances, put them in a position to then qualify for a traditional business loan. And we had smaller business loans than most of the market. It always was our intent to then serve as a bridge to a larger financial institution.
Very important.
When that small business financial needs grew. And so we're really proud of our efforts in that space.
Very,
You know, we really,
it's something you should be very proud of.
yes, yes. We helped a lot of small businesses. We help people to understand what it takes to run a small business. And sometimes, to be quite honest, you know, the answer after meeting with us was, this isn't what I need to do for myself. And so that was a positive outcome as well, so that people recognize, hey, this is what it takes to grow a business that isn't necessarily for me, or this is what it takes to grow a business, I'm all in.
And you know, giving the option and giving that full kind of information that you had readily available was very important to businesses, because sometimes they don't have access to
Yes.
all of that.
Yes.
But as the success of financial access continued to grow, and you led into this, you developed a relationship with Credit Union One.
Yes.
And that's a very important thing. What drew you to the opportunity of a merger with Financial Access and Credit Union One?
Well, I had the pleasure of meeting Credit Union One CEO Todd Gunderson, and he's just this amazing, charismatic individual. And immediately I recognized that their values were our values. What they were trying to achieve was very similar to what we were trying to achieve. Todd recognized that as well. And so he was drawn to us because of our involvement in the community, our commitment to financial wellness. These were all things that were very important at Credit Union One. And he told me point blank, I want to see you and your team do that as part of our organization. And my initial response was, we're in great financial shape. I'm not looking to be a part of a merger. We've received grant money, federal dollars, we're doing okay. And he looked at me and he said, what if you didn't have to chase grant money?
Yeah.
What if you were part of an organization that supported that mission, that had the same mission, and that would support you? And so instead of being a part of a $35, $40 million organization, you could be part of a $2 billion organization that had national reach. And, you know, I almost say, hey, you had me at hello. You know,
Well,
it just made sense.
You know, I must say, you know, the idea is that he saw the value, not the dollar value, never, but the value within the community that Financial Access was bringing to the table. And to follow up, that merger with Credit Union One, that's going to, how is that going to impact your ability to positively impact the community?
You know, I love this phrase that I share. If you've talked to me, you've probably heard me say it. At Financial Access, we were the little engine that could.
That's
you know, we were the small institution, and believe me, we were involved in a lot of really interesting things.
Yeah.
Collaborations, credit building software. We did all these partnerships. In merging with Credit Union One, we inherited products and resources that we just didn't have at Financial Access. Their banking products allowed us to be able to offer a more robust platform for small businesses. So we've been able to grow what we could do for small businesses. Their consumer products, they had a lot more offerings than we had. And they were willing to bring some of our software and some of our strategies with them. And so since I've been with them, I've seen them expand their role in the community.
Right.
They make a significant investment in the community through their CU1, CU Cares, CU1 Cares, excuse me, CU1 Cares program. They have a partnership with the Golick Foundation up in the Chicagoland area. And for those of you who might be sports fans, Golick was a football player with Notre Dame University, and he played in the NFL. And so Credit Union One partners with Notre Dame and they provide financial support to the Golick Foundation. That foundation gives scholarships, is actively involved in financial wellness for student athletes, is really an important institution in the Chicagoland area.
So they're involved and have been involved with community purposes
Absolutely.
for many, many years. And that kind of fits into what Financial Access has been doing.
Yes, I mean, we've had organizations approach us about mergers, and there was never a fit. I was never interested in a second date, if you will. But in talking to Todd Gunderson, our CEO, there was such a commonness in what they were doing and what they wanted to do, and they valued me and they valued my team, and they felt that we could be strong contributors
Right.
in helping them
Right.
to achieve their goals. They didn't just look at, we were a high net worth credit union, I'll say. We had very significant reserves. I'm quite sure that is a consideration when you're looking at a partnership.
Sure.
But it went further than that. It was they valued our members, they valued our employees, they valued our mission, and they've even allowed us to bring some of our strategies with them. They now have their branch managers are now branch and community engagement managers. These are individuals that historically worked inside the branch. They now spend half of their time out in the community making a difference.
Right.
So I'm thrilled to be a part of an organization that understood community engagement previously, that are making a higher investment and commitment to community engagement and partnerships. And I'm thrilled to be a part of that journey for them. It is an amazing fit, I think, for what was Financial Access.
Right.
And now we can do so much more for our community. We can offer so much more for the businesses in our community. We can offer so much more for the residents in our community. And so all I can say is, Charles, you ain't seen nothing yet, my friend.
Well, you just answered, one of the follow-up questions that I had is Financial Access has always had a history of doing things with and for the community.
Yes.
And how will that continue now that, the Financial Access is becoming part of Credit Union One, which you've kind of explained. But what do you see as a future thing of how you continue to develop with Credit Union One?
Well, as we were having these discussions with Credit Union One and we were going through the logistics of a merger, Financial Access had been a recipient of federal grant dollars. And those dollars were received in order for us to invest in the community, financial strategies, give people access to capital, fully understanding that Credit Union One would be responsible party once we merged. I talked to the leadership team and I said, hey, I have a wonderful idea, and that is I'd like to deploy $400,000 from this grant into the community, partnering with very important institutions in the community,
Right.
Manatee, Chamber of Commerce,
Exactly.
the Career Source, Suncoast, and Manatee Community Foundation. Credit Union One team was like, that would be wonderful. So we made that investment initially in the name of Financial Access,
Right.
but it was with the sanction of Credit Union One, with the understanding that Credit Union One would be the responsible party managing that partnership and moving forward.
Well,
And so-
because they saw that your vision and your goal is to combine things that are happening in the community with Financial Access and now Credit Union One.
Absolutely. And I have to say, I couldn't even conceive of doing this without Maria Avey. She is amazing. I can be the architect, but Maria gets it done. And so we have been partners for over 14 years. And I like to tell this story. I have been her boss for 7 years. She has been my boss for 7 years. She was a board member at Financial Access. And so after I left the Central CRA, I recruited her to the board of Financial Access, and she continued to work with us. And then when she moved from this community, she lives in Dahlonega now. I gave her a contract so she can continue to be a part of what we do, because she and I have been on a mission for 14 years to tie access to capital and financial wellness strategies to workforce strategies.
Right.
And no one does it better than Maria.
Well, again, singing her praises is a wonderful thing. Having worked with Maria on a couple of occasions, you know, she does have all of those assets that are great for the community.
Yes, yes. And so I was excited that she and I are now able to kind of take our show on a bigger stage.
Very much
And
so.
so as market president, you know, I'm charged with building up Florida and ultimately building up the entire Southeast. And Maria is a vice president now with Credit Union One. She reports directly to me, and we work hand in hand with these incredible strategies. So she's working very closely with Josh and the Career Source Group, working with employers, trying to figure out what do those employers need and what do their employees need. You know, we're committed to a holistic approach to improving the institutions in our community.
Very much so.
Yes, we want to offer financial wellness solutions to the employees. Yes, we want to offer access to capital to the employees, but we also want to look at what are the needs of the employer.
Right.
And so Maria allows us to continue to bring that dual client focus, you know,
Very
the
important.
employer and the employee. So we're doing some surveying, and the Career Source is very actively involved in kind of convening employers in this community. We want to know your pain points.
Right.
We want to know your challenges.
Right.
We want to know, and not just financial. Yeah, we want to potentially offer solutions in that space, but we're networked. And so, you know, it may be connecting you with MCR because they have a program that can help your employees. And so that's really our commitment, to be a collaborator, to be a connector, to bring resources into this community to make a difference.
And sir, if I may, you know, throughout your many years of success, not only with the CRA and Financial Access, and now as the merger with Credit Union One, again, your vision, your purpose, your drive is for success at the individual, the employer level, the small business owner level, and those are things that have really driven you, you know, to the continued outpouring of support that you have. And if I may, what you've talked about for Credit Union One has been fascinating. What you continue to do is going to be fascinating. With a large resource like Credit Union One, you know, financial access is going to be a big part of their continued success as well. But I'd like to take a few moments, if I may, because you've touched on it throughout this conversation, is talk a little bit more about community. We live in a growing area. They've estimated that in the next 15 years or so, this population will be close to 450,000 people. With that growth comes all kinds of challenges and issues. And, you know, as a leader in this community, as somebody that is respected and admired for their vision, you know, I'd like to get your kind of overall picture of where this growth is going to lead to. And chief among them, there's so many issues that we'll talk about briefly, but one of the key things I'd like for you to talk about is about healthcare too. Healthcare is an important issue for underserved populations, and I'd like to hear your perspective on some of these things.
I mean, healthcare is so incredibly important. People get sick. People don't have access to preventative care sometimes. It can be devastating for your family. I really want to take my hat off to Dr. Price at MCR.
Nolan Price.
Dr. Price and what they're doing at MCR and the role that they play in this community, the resources that they pay. I think they may have 49 locations, maybe 6 pharmacies, and they're there for those families and individuals who may not have resources.
Right.
And he is such a forward-thinking, Dr. Dennis Price is such a forward-thinking individual, and some of the strategies that they're embarking upon, you know, to be able to make a difference in this community and make sure that everyone has access to affordable health care, and working in that space and providing financial services to individuals who are sometimes left out of the mainstream. You know, I feel like I have a kinship, you know, with organizations like MCR, which is out there, MCR Health, which is out there trying to provide access to quality health care for individuals who may be outside of the financial mainstream. And they're probably one of the largest healthcare systems of that type in the entire Southeast.
Very much so.
So they're an important part of our ecosystem. They're an important part of the healthcare infrastructure in this community. And I'm just proud to see them standing strong and moving forward, and even starting to grow and bring new initiatives to the table. We are working with them to provide financial wellness solutions to their employees. And we're hoping to expand upon that relationship and maybe use some of their expertise as we encounter employees who have certain needs. It's a partnership that is growing and expanding, and I look forward to the future with that partnership.
And if I must say so, I think you hit the nail right on the head. You know, you're all about financial stability, financial growth, and that's a critical thing. But unless you're in a healthy state of mind, not only to be healthy, but preventative health as well, which is a very big, important part for the community to know about. And I think you hit the nail on the head with talking about Dr. Price, who has that vision of providing as many services to those that are challenged.
Preventative care is so important. I had someone say to me, and it really speaks to how sometimes we really truly don't understand. I had someone say to me that America has the best healthcare system in the world. Anytime someone gets violently sick, they can go to an emergency room and be taken care of. And it saddened me to hear that. That does not equate to quality health care. Quality health care is talking about opportunities to get preventative care, opportunities for people to get health screenings, you know, and that's where we need to be focusing our attention, as opposed to saying, hey, we're doing enough. If someone is lying dead in the street, they can go to a hospital and be seen. Well, how about we give them access to quality health care before they're lying almost dead in the street?
And I think that's an important thing because, you know, in underserved populations, there are health issues. You know, high blood pressure is a thing. Diabetes is a very important thing. Preventive care, and MCR does a wonderful job of kind of outreaching as much as they can. Preventative care is so important, so it can prevent those emergency room visits.
Absolutely.
And, you know, those dollars expended on something of that nature. But I think that healthcare is a vital part of community growth and development.
It most certainly is. I mean, I equate preventative care in the healthcare arena to preventative care in the financial services space. You know, we like to look at our role as being preventative care. Let us help you to understand your personal finances. Let us help you to grow your credit score. Let us help to put you in a position to where you're not in critical condition when you need access to capital.
Right.
Same thing on the healthcare side.
Exactly.
Let us make sure that you understand how to take care of yourself, and you have access to screenings, and you have access to checkups and things of that nature, so that you're not on a gurney in an emergency room praying for
Help.
help.
Yeah, and that's an excellent point. And healthcare, while critical, is not the only issue on the table for a community at large.
Yes.
There's so many things. Affordable housing is a critical issue. Infrastructure, employment, and another thing. Opportunity is another thing. Education is another one. So your
Absolutely.
overview and all of these critical needs within a community. And Bradenton isn't the only city that's going through this. There's cities throughout the country that are facing these same challenges. But I think what Bradenton have are individuals like you who have a vision and know how to solve and collaborate to make these issues less critical.
Collaboration is the key, Charles. I can't sit here and say one individual can
Right.
solve a community's problems. But if we get in the room together and we pool our resources and we leave our egos at the door, there is so much that we can accomplish. When we made the $400,000 investment, we envisioned pulling these community leaders. The Chamber of Commerce recognized, and I lose count because, Jackie and Bob before her, they've done such an amazing job. Is it 4 or is it 5 times they were Chamber of the Year?
4 or 5 times, you're right.
In the state of Florida. Every time I say it, Jackie corrects me. So if Jackie sees this, I'm sorry, Jackie. It's either 4 or 5. I think it might be 5. And they actually won Chamber of the Year nationally.
Nationally, yes.
Which is an amazing, think about that for a second.
That's an amazing
Put your
achievement.
mind around that for a second. How many chambers of commerce do you
Throughout
think
the United States.
throughout the United States? And for our local team to win Chamber of the Commerce nationally, it really speaks to how amazing a job they're doing.
Exactly.
And it speaks to how amazing this community is. If I were to say one thing, let's collaborate. Let's all come together. I come from government. There are resources that are available through government. There are resources that are available through the community redevelopment agencies, through the taxing district at county government. You have an amazing redevelopment agency operating out of Palmetto, and you have Mayor Bryant, who is forward-thinking and doing some amazing things. You have the Bradenton CRA, which is now led by Jeff Burton.
Right.
And I had the pleasure to have a phone call with Jeff Burton, and he's doing some amazing things. And I can't get out in front of him and talk about his projects, but he has some really interesting things that he's working with to solve community problems. I say, take all of that work to the next level by partnering, partnering with entities in the educational space, partner with financial institutions like
Right.
Credit Union One that are committed to make a difference in this community. I would have never, ever considered becoming a traditional banker. I have a conversation with my wife, and she's heard me say, I'm not a banker. And I identify as a community development finance expert. My wife looks at me deadpan and says, Sherod, you're a banker. You're president of a credit union. And so I laugh about it, but I don't self-identify as a traditional banker. I would not be interested in a traditional banking role. And I'm thrilled that I'm being given an opportunity to operate in a capacity that isn't a traditional banker with Credit Union One. I am honored that they trust me to bring community development partnerships, community development strategies. And sometimes that requires making decisions that aren't just bottom line decisions.
Right.
And so it takes a forward-thinking organization. it takes a charismatic leader like Todd Gunderson to really understand and buy into that. And I just feel like I'm in a really good place. So now these ideas and strategies, that on the surface, some people might say, why would you want to do that? I'm a part of an organization that understands we're going to do well by doing good.
And I think, this all comes down, if I may, to saying it's about collaboration.
It is about collaboration.
And during this conversation, you've emphasized and have shown definitive examples of what collaboration can bring to the table.
Absolutely.
And it's not just with, organizations like MCR or, the foundations. It's with small businesses.
Yes.
It's with
Yes.
individuals.
Yes.
It's that single parent family.
Absolutely.
All of those things. How can I collaborate to make this better for you?
Absolutely.
And you, sir, with your vision, visionary outlook, have really taken that to as much extent as possible so far. But so far, it brought you here. Very successful, very well thought of, very respected throughout this community. But we have years ahead. We've got challenges ahead. And I'd like to hear what your vision you see as you move forward.
I tell you, Charles, we're dealing with some challenging times. And, as we look at, economic pressures, as we live in an area that's exploding. I like to believe the challenging times create opportunities.
Right.
And so as we grow, as you mentioned, we're looking at 450,000
Citizens.
residents in this area. We need to make sure that we're doing the right thing to build the infrastructure. And I hope and pray that our elected officials are committing the time and energy necessary so that we build the infrastructure to support this growth. I hope our elected officials and those in government are spending the time and resources necessary to partner and bring resources in this community to deal with the issue of affordable housing. If you look across the country, there are communities where housing is no longer affordable. And we sit back and we say, San Francisco is this terrible place. Well, San Francisco is a victim of escalating and increasing price of real estate. It's a victim of greed and I want to make as much money as possible. There are negative consequences that come with that type of conduct. And I visited San Francisco years ago, and it's this beautiful, amazing city, and it's cultural, and it's all these different people, and this is an amazing place. It's sad to see that the housing crisis, something that was good, bringing in, high-tech businesses and people making all this money, but sometimes we have to kind of think about, well, what are the consequences of just unbridled growth?
Right.
And you see that.
That's a very good point.
In some areas. So I want this community to grow and to expand and be vibrant, but I want to caution us all about unbridled growth. I'm not an elected official. That is not what I do. That is not my area of expertise. I just don't want 10 years, 20 years from now, we're looking at people sleeping on the street.
Yeah, and for us to say coulda, shoulda, woulda type of thing.
Now is the time to make, decisions about our future. Now is the time to, if we're going to invest in growth, how is that growth going to impact everything else? And what are we taking out of that growth to reinvest in our community so that people are not left behind?
And that's a key word you just used, to reinvest.
You have to reinvest.
Because whatever you have, you want to give back.
Absolutely.
As individuals, as corporations, as nonprofits, you want to give back. And that's reinvesting back into the community for continued growth and prosperity. So, Mr. Haliburton, we're kind of running out of time a little bit here, and I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed this conversation with you. Your insight and focus on the future, on Credit Union One, is inspiring, and I think this community should know more about it. But I want to give you an opportunity to let the citizens know, and those who are watching, about the importance of a credit union, working with Credit Union One, and if people want to find out more and how they can get involved, how can they do that?
Okay. Credit Union One has allowed me to expand on their community engagement efforts. And I think that's very, very, very important. And we want to establish ourselves in this marketplace, and I will say it to you here today. We want to be the premier community development credit union in this marketplace. And there's wonderful credit unions in this marketplace. And I'm not here to disparage any of them. They all offer wonderful things. I grew up in a credit union. My mother has a relationship with a credit union. It got me through college. And so I'm not here to disparage any credit unions, but I feel that I want this institution to stand heads and shoulders above the rest in making a commitment to the citizens and the businesses and the institutions of this community. That is what I push for every day at Credit Union One. I'm thankful that we have this incredible leader that allows me that latitude. Todd Gunderson is this amazing person. You know, I share with people, I've run organizations for 20 years. Prior to this, I am proud to be a lieutenant in his Army. And, you know, we are here to establish ourselves as the premier resource and partner for local government, for redevelopment agencies, for our educational institutions. We want to be a resource for the institutions and the people that access those resources. If you want to know more about Credit Union One, you can go to our website, Credit Union One, and that's the number one.org. And so check out our website, go to our Credit Union One Cares page and read a little bit about what we've done, but look for a lot of more things to be added based on the wonderful work that we're going to be doing here in Florida.
Sherod, again, I can't thank you enough. And if I may, I want to borrow a couple of your words about Credit Union One trying to make that head and shoulders above everybody. I must say that your leadership in this community, your focus on giving back is really head and shoulders throughout this community. And the citizens should be very thankful for your leadership over the years, through financial access, through the central CRA that you think. You were always concerned about the results of giving back and making people prosperous. And that's a wonderful, wonderful attribute to share. Again, the information you provided was invaluable, and I think these conversations should be more for, I would suggest maybe you and Maria Evie would come back and talk a little bit about, you know, career development, because I think that's an important part of where you want to go next.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm thrilled for her to be on this journey with me. Maria Evie is amazing, and you know, I feel as if I couldn't be the architect without her by my side.
Again, sir, thank you very much for your time and for all the information that you provided today.
All right.
And thank you for joining us on this very special edition of Up Close on METV.